Yeah, she was.
Hi.
I was hacked too.
Welcome, welcome.
Three, two, one.
Thank you. Okay, welcome to the January meeting of the Housing and Land Use Committee for Community Board 7. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Any objections? Okay, so let's get started. Our first item is a presentation by Polly, one of our fellow board members, about the RAD Pact conversion process that several developments, NYCHA developments in our community are shortly to undergo. Give me 1 minute and I'm going to share. Sorry, 1 second.
While you're doing that, good evening, everyone, and my name is Polly Spain, and I'm just gonna give you like an overview of the RAD Pact program. It's a lot of information to digest, okay? So, after I finish with my presentation piece, we can do some Q&A. What you're gonna see, okay, here we go.
Okay.
Great. What you're gonna see is a PowerPoint presentation packet that was developed by NYCHA. Anything that you see on the screen right now, you can find at their website, which is NYCHA, NYCHA.nyc.gov. Okay, so if you look at the screen over here, you're gonna see the breakdown of our area here. The district in red. See the little box that says NYCHA Development Buildings? That's a code that we set up. You'll see PACT Development Buildings in green. Those are the PACT buildings and the boundary, okay? So the PACT program is a program that has been introduced, I would say, since about 2011, around 2011, in which NYCHA and HUD sat down and said, okay, we don't have funding really to continue to operate the public housing buildings. Most of the public housing buildings are under a program called Section 9 funding, okay? So PACT basically is a different program that gets funding called Section 8. Now, what that does is that allows a landlord, which would be NYCHA in this case, to receive more money per unit as opposed to the Section 9 program. Currently, NYCHA is saying that, you know, they just don't have enough money to operate all of the developments. So they wanted to find a different solution to continue to maintain the buildings, which most of them are over 50 years old. Okay, and I'm not gonna go into the history of NYCHA, because NYCHA, most of us know, began back in 1934. Okay. So what we have here, if you look at the date, October 17, 2025, recently, certain developments in our district were selected to join that program and convert to Section 8. And later on, you're gonna hear from one of the presidents who went through the conversion program, Ernesto Carrero at Wise Towers. Can you go to the next screen? Okay. So this screen here is showing you, again, the needs. And what it's saying is that NYCHA needs $78.3 billion to modernize its housing. And the federal government only provides a fraction of that funding. And of course, the buildings have deteriorated over the years. As I said, most of them are over 50 years of age, okay? So again, they said, all right, well, what can we do to bring in more funding? Under Section 8, again, residents would only pay 30% of their income and the other 70% would be subsidized. Let's go to the right. Sorry, next one. Yeah. All right. So here in these pictures, you're seeing some of the sites. As you can see, they need to be upgraded. That's a playground on the top over there. They're showing you the hallway of the average buildings within NYCHA, which are mortar, brick, cinder block. That's a bathroom. And, again, they're saying because of this investment, they had to come up with a different alternative when it comes to funding. We can go to the next slide. And these are the developments that were selected in our area. Most of the, buildings, as I said, are over 50 years old. I'm just gonna go over the acronyms. You're gonna see 154 West 84th Street, which is across the street from Brandeis High School. We have their hostels apartments, which is multi-level, I think it's like 22 floors. Tower, that's on 93rd Street between Amsterdam Avenue and Broadway. We have Rehab, Douglas Rehab, which is at Broadway and that's 100th Street. That looks like a brownstone building, like a walk-up. And then we have Wise Rehab. We have Thomas Apartments, which is a senior building that's on 91st Street between Columbus and Amsterdam. And we have the Wasura Brownstones. And Wasura stands for West Side Urban Renewal. We have Site A, which is at 120 West 94th Street. Site B, which is across the street from Trader Joe's, 74 West 92nd. And Site C, which is 589 Amsterdam Avenue. Now, the Wasura buildings were federally funded. And the Wise Towers at that time, which is going through conversion, was funded by state and city funds in order to be built back in 1960 something. The president knows the exact date. Let's move to the next slide. So again, they're indicating here that it needs major repairs, and you can see the cost of the repairs at the top. It looks like it says $632.2 million. Okay, it's kind of tiny, but all right, there you go. All right, so there's issues again that we had discussed about heat and hot water, open work orders. And then we have doors that are regularly broken, intercoms, etc., asbestos, outages. So they kind of broke down the statistics of the reasoning behind converting these buildings in our area to the Section 8 program. I believe that's a picture of the brownstones. Is that right, Cynthia? It looks like it.
No.
It
Oh,
looks
yeah,
like-
we had the flood on 93rd.
Right, okay, so that's what they're indicating, that there's flooding, and that building is located on 93rd Street. That's between Columbus and Amsterdam. Again, they look like brownstones on the outside, so they're not the contemporary public housing buildings that are kind of like tall towers. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, so here's the definition of what PAC is, and what they're saying is that it's a rental assistance demonstration program, RAD, and they're saying that it transitions the housing stock into a more stable, federally funded program, which is project-based Section 8. Now, project-based Section 8 basically means that you qualify to get a voucher, and you can use that voucher to move into what is considered a private unit, so to speak. In this case, NYCHA will continue to be the landlord and own the land, okay? But they're bringing in private developers to renovate the properties. So what they're saying is that it unlocks funding to help with maintenance. And in the next slide here, they're saying that it'll address these comprehensive repairs. It'll be a 3-tiered system where you have a professional management team coming in, and it's supposed to enhance services. If you look at the pictures on the right-hand side, that's an example of the after effect after this team has come in and they've developed the building and brought in new appliances, renovated kitchens, bathrooms. I think that says Ocean Bay.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the first sites that they renovated. And the bottom, it says that it would still be under public control. And after the conversion, they'll continue to own the land of the building, administer the subsidies, so they will be in charge of the funding and the wait list. So that'll be a separate wait list from the current wait list, which is section 9 wait list. They're saying, according to them, that they'll monitor the conditions at the development. And this is, like I said, this is a standard packet that NYCHA presents at all their meetings to the residents, elected officials, and all parties, and you can find this again online at their site. Okay, so now let's look at the projects. And these are the statistics. They're saying, if you look at the blue button, they're saying there that they have 93 developments where construction is in progress or complete, and how many units and how many repairs have been made in the course. And if you see the map, it's scattered throughout Manhattan, Brooklyn, and maybe one, I believe, in Staten Island, it looks like. And then if you see the red dot, they're talking about planning and resident engagement, which we're going to speak to later on right now, and what that actually entails. So let's go to the next slide. Again, they're showing you examples of the after renovations and development that looks like that's in Baychester, which I believe is in the Bronx.
Yep.
Okay, and Williamsburg, the other one in the upper right-hand corner, that's Brooklyn, and Williamsburg again on the bottom. And again, here's some pictures of the building systems and the infrastructure that looks like the lobby at Independence House, which I believe is in Brooklyn also, and Williamsburg. So they changed the facade of the buildings, repaired the roof. It looks like they have sun up there on Warren Street on the roof. Solar panels, that's what it looks like. And then a whole new energy system.
Sorry.
Yeah, so basically, they're just showing you pictures of the work that has been done currently at different sites, the mailboxes, lobbies, laundry rooms, etc. That looks like a security tower. If you look at this picture on the right-hand side, that's called the key fob system. Some buildings have that already, even under the Section 9 program. And that's supposed to improve security. And we'll get into detail as to what that actually looks like and how it actually operates. Again, you see beautiful pictures of renovated kitchens, living rooms, that's the renovated bathrooms, the cabinets, the toilets, etc. Let's go to the next slide. Again, they're saying that they're upgrading the pipes, new heating systems, they're removing, it looks like asbestos, that's
Right.
Harlem River Houses up there in Harlem. Okay, which is a landmark site, built, I believe, 1934. And they're saying also that they're gonna have enhanced management. Okay, and they're showing us statistics as to what has been done currently, that they've repaired elevators, performances have been on time, better response teams, as far as services being delivered to residents. Let's go to the next slide. And this is a survey, which you're gonna hear from one of the presidents about the survey and what that actually entails and what that means. So right now, NYCHA has been sending out surveys to residents to get feedback on what can be done to improve their living standards and quality of life. So this is an example of some of the feedback that they've gotten. And there's no date on there to say exactly when that survey.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so again, they talk about resident protections, calculations, as I said earlier, you continue to pay 30% of your adjusted gross household income. Then it says residents do not have to pay any additional fees, charges, or utility expenses that are greater than what they currently pay. So what that could mean is that some buildings have to pay a utility fee, like I know at Sandra Thomas, they have to pay for electrical services. Some buildings don't. I don't know about Wise Towers, but you'll hear from the president and he'll speak to that. They talk about Section 8 eligibility, about rescreening, recertification process. They're saying that if you're under the Section 9 program, you automatically qualify for this Section 8 program upon the conversion. You see where it says automatic lease renewal. Okay, temporary relocation. So what they're saying is that in some cases, when they're doing the renovations in your apartment, they will have a hospitality suite, or they may relocate you to another site while they're working in your apartment. Right sizing, means that if you're in a 2-bedroom apartment, you may have to downsize to a 1-bedroom apartment. They also have over or under house. They're saying must move into appropriately sized apartments when one becomes available in their development, okay? Resident organizing, right now we have resident associations and some of the resident leaders are here. They're saying that you would still have the right to organize and have a resident association and still receive a tenant participation activity fund of $25 per unit. If you go where it says grievance hearings, they're saying that residents will continue to have the right to initiate grievance hearings with a third-party mediator. And of course, create jobs. Let's go down to the next page. Now, this to me is the part that we really need to look at, the committee, where it says planning and engagement process. Number 1, where it says listen and learn. Can you blow it up just a little bit? Residents meetings about PAC and how it works. Resident leadership, that would be the president, paired with independent advisors if desired, so that would be up to their choice to do so. This is outreach and discussions about community needs and priorities. And you see where it says 3 to 6 months. Now, in reference to the buildings and sites that were selected in our area, we're not at that step where it says step 1. Right now, we've only received a information packet stating that we are designated to be included in this PAC RAD program, okay?
So you're sort of right here.
Yeah, we haven't even had meetings about PAC and how it works, okay? Right now, we've only received information packets and paper, okay? Recently, like maybe 2 weeks, like this month, all right? And so that's why I want us to focus on this particular slide with the process. Because according to this, there's a timeline of 3 to 6 months. So we're in January right now. So that means between now and June, okay, things have to happen. And I feel that we as a community board needs to be prepared and ready to support, okay, the leaders and residents going through this process, because there's been major issues at Wise Towers with this process, because no one was basically watching except for Rosalba Rodriguez and some others, you know, keeping an eye on things and monitoring what's going on, okay? So we really want to make sure, because there are so many buildings involved and families involved, that we get it right and make sure that we have the proper tools in place to protect resident rights. Okay, that's the most important thing that we're concerned about right now. You're gonna hear from Ernesto Carrero, who's the president of Wise Towers, and Cynthia Tibbs, and they're gonna speak in more detail. But this right here, this timeline, this process, this is what we're looking at, okay? So when you talk about outreach and discussions about community needs, well, what that would mean is that they have to reach out to the public housing community and sit down with residents and leaders and say, what do you want for your building and your site? Because each site is different. Some are tall, some are small, some have elevators, some don't, you understand? So it's a whole different configuration, and it's a very complicated process. There's a lot involved regarding construction, regarding environmental issues, you know. So this is not something that you're just gonna sit down and say, okay, this is what we have, and, you know, this is what we can do and not do. We need to ask questions, we need to be educated, we need to be aware, and we need to monitor what's going on, each step. So if we go to number 2, partner selection, you see where it says issue requests for expressions of interest to select PAC partners. Now, they've already generated a list, okay? December of last year, I don't know if you can bring it up, but a list was already generated with what we call pre-qualified individual developers. And if they were interested in taking on the role, they went to a meeting January 13th, okay? Now, if you're not aware, and you're not doing your research, there it goes, okay? So I went on the site and I pulled this up. And what we found
Section.
out is that Guarded
Many pages
Riverside, Guarded Riverside is one of the entities who has applied to become a management entity in the PAC program.
Developer.
Develop, I'm sorry. No, because it tells you right there. See with the X?
Yep.
Let's go to the X. Go to the X so you can see.
Oh, sorry.
All right, there's, all right, so they're a developer and also they're a nonprofit. And so, they became qualified in 2024 and they don't have to renew until 27. Okay? And also Wishfish is eligible too. If you go down to, enter this, where it says West Side Federation. Okay, so they also qualify. Now, whether or not these entities attended that meeting, we have no knowledge of that, okay?
Right.
But we want to have transparency to know who we're dealing with, because whoever applied, they may come to our buildings and say, okay, I'm so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm interested in this particular building and we need to sit down and have a discussion. And we have to form what's called a review committee, okay? So we as a community board, because we have access to resources, services and other networks. And as I said, we're volunteers, we don't get paid, there's no skin in the game for us. I feel that this is the best platform, okay, to get the information that we need in the public housing community to help us make the right decision. And that's why I'm bringing this to the attention of the committee, okay, because a lot of you have that background knowledge and you can help, okay? So, and I want you to look at this because things are happening rapidly. You see what it says Resident Review Committee? That committee gets to evaluate the proposal and select the partner team, okay? Yes.
I just realized that some of these steps are not, this is not after the 3 to 6 month period, this step starts, because this has already been issued.
Exactly.
So there's some overlap here, so we actually don't
Because
have
they're
as much
moving quickly.
time as we
Mhm.
think.
And they're not really giving us information.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So you said, they come to your building and they said they want to, but are you talking about the whole project, Wise Houses, or are you talking about individual buildings getting in?
Well, the sites that were listed that have been selected to become part of the PAC RAD program, some of them are multiple buildings, like the Brownstones have scattered sites.
Yeah.
So then that team would go to the president or the residents of that site, okay? My building's only one building. You understand what I'm saying? 154, 84 is only one building, you see? So there's different configurations. And so whoever that potential candidate to become the developer would say, I'm just using as an example, okay, we're interested in taking on, the process to develop and restructure this building, okay? So they would sit down with the residents and the resident association and we would have a meeting to discuss this because they have to introduce themselves, who they are, okay? And then we have to form what's called a review committee, okay? And then we are the ones that have to look at the materials, like having an interview for a job. All right, and then we got to ask questions like, why should we select you as the developer? And that's where the community board can come in, you understand? Because you might have the technical knowledge on construction, on policies, regulations, etc. And so therefore, it's important for us to understand the process, okay? Because NYCHA's not gonna just like say, okay, we really want to help you, they did offer, but we just feel that there's too much of a conflict of interest. To feel that they're gonna work in our best interests, okay? So that's why we felt it was important to bring this to the attention of the committee so we can have a discussion and dialogue on what we can do. So, and as you see in number 2, it says continue hosting resident meetings. So these are required tours, workshops, open house events. Number 3, now, once the developer is selected, then we have to think in terms of a management team and a social service organization. So there's 3 tiers to that, okay? So design is talking about the PAC partners. And those partners, again, will be the developer, the management team, and the social service organization. And they're supposed to work with the residents, with the rehabilitation program, property management, and social service plans. And then we get to view a nice, beautiful model unit like you saw in the pictures earlier in the slides. And then the issue that I have is about the leases. Because the feedback that I've gotten in the past is that there's certain language in the leases where residents can be evicted. There's been issues where residents didn't understand the language in the leases because no one was there to explain it to them. We are a multicultural community and not everybody speaks English. Other people speak different languages. And that's something that we need to look at to make sure and ensure that you understand what you're signing. We have elderly, we have people who are challenged, okay, physically, and you're gonna hear stories, horrible stories about, what is going on in the past. So that's why I'm really concerned about the legal aspects and ramifications to make sure that resident rights are ensured. Okay, and then the last piece is the construction, where the development converts to project-based Section 8 funding, new property manager assumes responsibility, and construction begins. Now, I attended a meeting at Garden Riverside in NYCHA, the top level officials were there. And one of them mentioned something about they want to, by September, be at that stage where residents are signing leases. So they're moving fast.
This September?
Exactly,
That's not even-
exactly. Okay?
There's a lot of seniors over there.
Exactly. So that's why, we need to be a step ahead of them. And I would like to see our housing committee, okay, be the lead when it comes to making sure that we get the right channels. And
Where will the
Get feedback.
tenants live during construction?
that's a good question. Okay? That's a good question. It's up to, again, when we go through that process where we're interviewing the potential developer, that's something that has to be answered. And it should be put in writing, not just verbal, because I'm hearing that they're not honoring anything that they've put in writing. Okay, and that's a problem. So here we have, again, next steps, listen and learn. Says welcome packet distributed to all residents, which I just indicated that was done in January, about 2 weeks ago. The survey, to my knowledge, I haven't received the survey. I don't know if anyone else has, so maybe.
What is the survey for?
A question, like a survey materials, basically, like a Google form, but it's not really Google, it's like hard copy.
But it's not whether or
It's
not
to
we
get-
want to go through PAC.
No, it's to just get feedback, that's it. It's not like we're asking you. We've already been designated, so no one asked.
Mhm.
It's a fact. You're going into the PAC Red program. The survey is just to kind of, I believe, kind of gauge, just kind of gauge where you're at. You understand what I'm saying?
Holly,
It's what you would like.
They make,
Yeah.
are the survey and the informational material in more than one language?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay,
Yeah,
it should
But
be.
more than one language other than Spanish.
right, yeah. It's in, Haitian,
Creole.
Creole, it's in,
I've seen it before,
Mandarin,
but I think
yeah,
there-
Because
yeah.
we dealt with another situation where everything was in English.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
So, right. Okay, but right now we're in committee session, Annalisa, so we're gonna wait till after we finish and then we can have a discussion. Okay, so number 3, PAC info session, all residents are invited to the information session about the PAC program.
Have they done that yet?
Well,
Not quite.
not really, okay, officially, it has not been indicated that we've had any sessions, information sessions, okay? And no one has really heard back from them, okay? Other than when we were at the, meeting at Goddard, that was it. And not much information was disclosed. Number 4, additional outreach, may, remember that word may, okay? A PAC site tour, office hours, and text robocalls. And you see number 5, RFEI release to select PAC partner. Now that was done January 13th. But if you go by this presentation slide, it's out of sync. You understand what I'm saying? So this is just a bird's eye view of the information that NYCHA has put together. These are the stakeholders. wait, go back to that slide for one
Sorry.
second.
Yep.
These are the stakeholders, Jamie Chalvet, Senior Community Planner, Real Estate Development Department. And the email is there and the phone number, and the other person is Rachel Renders. These are new people who have just been hired in NYCHA.
Don't know nothing.
So they have no background information on the community. And there's the hotline and email address for those of you who may want to get more information, okay? And then we put together a slide here so we can do our Q&A. And so where are we at now? As I said earlier, information has been distributed to residents. NICE is required to have up to 5 resident information sessions. And that could change, okay? A pre-qualification list of stakeholders, as I said, who are interested in PAC RAD will offer an opportunity to attend the information session. And this wasn't publicly announced. I had to do the research to get this information, okay? Number 2, so for us, the Housing Committee, what happens next, all right? The next phase would be the formation of a review committees required for each site. Now, we're talking about 8 locations. That's a lot. All right, and they may try to come and say, oh, we want to just lump it together. We don't know because no one's talking to us, okay? To determine selection of a developer, management team, and social service organization. So what happens next? New management team commences tenant screening and signing of new Section 8 leases, okay? So the question that I'm asking the committee is how can we support the sites that are going to be converted? That's a question that we need to think about. And number 5, some who are currently going through it right now, who are in the PAC program, and you're going to hear from our president, who can tell you what our concerns should be, all right? So at this point,
We're looking for questions.
yeah, all right, so I
Questions?
ask committee members first, yes.
So, do we know that project-based Section 8 has been approved for each of these sites? Because that's also a process. And it's not an automatic process, and it's not an easy process. There's a limited amount of project-based Section 8 available. Do we know anything about that?
No, we don't, and that's why we need to convene and have a discussion, because these are the areas that we need to get feedback on.
Mhm.
You understand, and that's why bringing it to the attention of the committee. The questions that you raise are so important and so relevant, all right? And we should be able to reach out to NYCHA and say, this is what we need, so that this way we can turnkey that out to the resident leaders and help them to make the right decisions and be prepared, so that when the developers come to them and say, okay, we're interested in, sitting down with you and taking over, your development, then they know what questions to ask and they'll be prepared and have that. Yes,
My experience in
Mhm.
housing,
yeah,
it takes several months at least to
Mhm.
get the project, base Section 8, sometimes a year.
That's right.
So that's one issue. The other issue, but this will be up to the leadership of each section. Maybe they want to have a representative from the board attend some of these meetings so that it's not, secondhand. And so the city may feel that they're also answering to the board. But that'll be up to the.
I feel, to be honest with you, I think something's going on behind the scene where someone is expediting and accelerating that Section 8 process. But I can't prove it. That's just my summation, to be honest with you.
But it's unusual.
Yeah, it is, because things can be waived when they need to be, and that's why we had our meet and greet prior to the housing committee meeting, because we do plan to meet with the resident leaders, at least once a month, but that's something that we wanted to discuss as a committee first, all right, just to get feedback. So thank you for bringing that. Do you have any questions? Anyone else? Just wanna focus on the committee members first. Any other questions from the committee members? Okay, so now we'll take questions from the audience.
Do you mind speaking a little louder?
A little louder.
Hi, everyone. One of my concerns is what's gonna happen to kids who might be living in the housing with schooling. I attended New York City Public Schools and I know, people commute to school,
Mhm.
and also for elementary school students. And all that, placed in another housing development is more further away from school. And similarly for parents who are employed, how does that impact them? That's the only problem, I think.
And that, again, are issues that we're gonna have to address when we have our review committee and convene. From what I understand right now, I won't say that that has been an issue, but remember in one of the slides, it said may, M-A-Y, you understand? So I feel it's a case-by-case basis, and I don't wanna guess. So right now, I'm just kind of like listening, learning, and getting whatever information I can to get a full picture of what their next move is, so to speak, because they're really not giving us any information. Okay? Um. Are there any other questions from the public? Yes?
So just my, not, I don't know, but my understanding of the way project-based Section 8 works is that the developer, whoever comes in, gets, market rent for those apartments. So while, not from the tenants, tenants still pay 30%,
Right.
but that the developer gets from the federal government for market rate rent. But so that's their incentive to move back,
Exactly.
right? Because they want to get those rents. It's the Upper West Side, the rents are high. But my understanding is that if tenants don't sign the new lease, the project-based Section 8 lease, and the building converts, that then the tenant's responsible for that market rate, right?
Absolutely,
So
that's it.
I would be really pushing for, my question is, how you can push for such a timeline such that everyone understands this, because in my experience in other places, tenants don't understand why they need to sign the new lease, because why would you? You're staying, you're gonna come back to your building. And then you're suddenly responsible for this enormous rent.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that has been one of our concerns, okay? There was a situation, I believe at Wise Towers, the president could speak to that, where, the funding wasn't available from Washington DC and letters went out. Is that correct? Stating that they would have to pay market rate rent. And that's one of the questions that we brought up tonight, John. We understand that basically that unit now is considered market rate, et cetera. So, and one of the things we want to ask also is somebody moves out, somebody dies, because there's a lot of warehousing going on. What are you going to do? So these are the questions that'll have to be asked to the potential developer, okay? And hopefully, not only will we get an answer, we want to get something in writing to that effect. And that's why we need some legal expertise and feedback and those who have already gone through the process to understand, to ask those questions, okay? And to say, okay, this is what you're saying today, but we want to see it in writing, because I'm hearing too many situations where promises are made, but then they're reneged upon later on down the road after they get the contract and they're in, it changes, okay? So that's why we're meeting now with the committee and to have a discussion to figure this out. Yes.
Do tenants have any option of saying no to going into the rent?
No. We just found out like November, we were at a meeting and we recently found, we had no clue. It was decided without us having any input. And that's why we want to make sure that we have a seat at the table and we have some input. Because if that's how they're starting out, and it's gonna be tough going down the road. Okay, yes.
So for the people who take over these buildings, are there any state or governmental rules that they have to follow?
They are supposed to follow the HUD 964 regs, which you'll find online, Federal Register. But NYCHA has their own policies that we need to look at. And things are changing, okay, from month to month, depending on who's in. We have a new executive board, et cetera. That's just the way it's been working so far. There's no real, I could say, stable policy in place. I just feel that they're selective about what they say to us as residents. But when they go in the office in the back room, it's a whole different program. And then it's next month. Oh, I'm sorry, but we couldn't comply something came up, et cetera. This is what we're dealing with, you know, from what I'm understanding and people have gone through the process. It's like, there's no accountability at all, okay? And that's why I think that we really need to look at what they've written in that particular slide that they're telling the public, so to speak. It's on the website, and that's their way of being transparent. But when the decision is made in the room, okay, it changes. And there should be, and that's the issue. There hasn't been any accountability there.
So when you're a NYCHA tenant,
Mm-hmm,
you have your 30% of the rent and it's forever. I mean, as long as you re-sign your
Mhm.
leases,
there's a recertification
Right,
process.
recertification. Is that what will happen in?
According to what they're saying. You know,
But again, it's dependent on
Yeah.
Section 8 funds being available, budget Section 8.
Exactly,
continuing to
exactly.
Program.
yeah, that's what they're saying now. 'Cause
Market rate.
right, and then
Yeah.
one meeting, the chair had said that they're anticipating 45% cuts coming out of Washington DC. Okay, so they
Yeah.
could say, well, you know, certain units will remain under a certain status, others cannot, because our budget has been slashed in half. We don't know what they're gonna say. We're guessing and we're just talking and having a conversation, but these are the things that we need to look at. And that makes sense. You're asking the right questions, but I don't really have a concrete answer right now, because everything is changing rapidly. Any other questions? Okay, so with that, I think we're gonna have,
Second
Yeah.
item on our agenda.
our next, oh, Cynthia, okay, Cynthia Tibbs.
I'll go after.
You'll go after? Okay, all right. So Cynthia Tibbs, who is the president of the Wasura Brownstones, is going to give us some information on her brownstone site and her concerns, and also her background knowledge on the PAC RAD program as well. She's also the vice chair of the Manhattan South District Council of Presidents. So she basically presides over, is it 52?
45.
45, okay, resident developments as far as advocating and representing them and making sure that their concerns are addressed, and she's like the liaison with NYCHA. So she's going to share information. She's a wonderful resource, so go ahead, take the floor.
So first of all, yes. First of all, when RAD first started, the very first development was Ocean Bay. Started in 2017, when they started. By 2023, the facade fell off the building,
Wow.
okay? That's how well they did the building. NYCHA comes in with intimidation tactics. First, let's talk about Section 8. The buildings are project-based Section 8. Nobody gets a voucher. This is not the regular Section 8 program where you get a voucher. The building is deemed Section 8. The building is recognized as a Section 8 building. Nobody gets an individualized voucher unless they are moving out of the development. And in order to qualify for a moving voucher, you have to be in good standing for at least a year and a half after the development has finished full conversion. So if you want to go to Jersey or Maryland or whatever, after a year and a half, and you have been in good standing in regards to paying your rent and not defacing the building, not getting any violations against your extravagant lease, then they will give you what's called a mobile voucher. The mobile vouchers are not worth the same amount as the unit you are coming from. They are extremely less. Okay? If you overflow a Section 8 program and turn everybody into this, sooner or later, they're gonna run out of funding. In what happened in January at Wise Towers was when the federal government stopped funding SNAP, it also stopped funding the Section 8 program, which is why anybody in a PAC development got a notice telling them your portion of your voucher for your building has not been paid this month. Everyone at Wise Towers got letters telling them what, depending on the size of their apartment, owed anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 for rent for the month of January. Now, once they finally came to an agreement and SNAP was refunded, was reinstated, then the vouchers went in late. However, under a normal circumstance, you have 3 days to pay your rent under this program. If you do not pay your rent to the private developer, God forbid you wind up in the hospital and you can't get a family member or a hospital social worker to verify that you are in the hospital and unable to pay your rent, the management office will automatically begin eviction proceedings on you. These leases are much more restricted than a NYCHA lease is. Under the PAC program, you must pay your rent on time. You must do your recertifications on time. Under NYCHA, you recertify once a year. And that's the time where you either add people onto your lease, remove people from your lease. If your income has changed, you have to let them know. Under the PAC program, you have to recertify with NYCHA once a year, and you have to recertify with the PAC program once a year, which means that every 6 months you're recertifying with somebody. Unfortunately, because a lot of these PAC developers don't know how to recertify the form correctly and they keep making errors, they keep asking you to resubmit it over and over and over, which has happened at Wise. Every month they're recertifying. All they do is recertify. Nobody puts their paperwork away because somebody's going to make them do it over again. And if you don't do it over, and if you are late, it opens up the doorway to eviction. The leases, they do not let you see the leases ahead of time. We have demanded with this new bundle that they've created, and it's not 8 buildings, it's 10. It's 10 buildings,
Okay.
because they've added Robbins Plaza from the east side
Oh, right,
onto it,
exactly.
and Douglas Rehabs. So it is now 10 buildings, because NYCHA figured out that instead of doing 1 building at a time like they do at Ocean Bay, that the developer could get more money if they bundled the buildings together. So what NYCHA has been doing for the past 5 years are super bundles, where they take anywhere from 10 to 12 buildings, bundle them all together, get all this money, and then once the conversion starts and NYCHA turns the keys over, the first way you'll know is everybody's gonna show up to that development with a brand new truck. Nothing but Ford F-150s and everything else come rolling into the grounds. And that's how you know your building's being converted, because they get their bonuses first. As far as moving out of your apartments, even though on the NYCHA website it says you could possibly be transferred, nobody gets transferred. This is a rehab in place. Nobody wants to move you out of your apartment and pay an expense when they can make you endure the drama in your apartment. They don't care about you being asthmatic. They don't care about children. Okay, I found out today that the Manhattan B bundle that Wise Towers is in, there is another building, 344 East 28th Street. They're into their 6th year of completion, just like Wise Towers, and Department of Buildings and NYCHA officials was banging on every tenant's door over there at 4 p.m. this afternoon, because there is now a child under the age of 6 that has been hospitalized with lead poisoning. So explain to me, like I'm a 5-year-old that doesn't know anything, how does this converted building that has now been operating as a full PAC developed building for 6 years got kids that are being exposed to lead to the point that they have now been hospitalized? That happened today. When they tell you and they show you these pretty little pictures, what they're not showing you is that the stainless steel stoves and refrigerators have yellow tags on the back of them, which means they're refurbished. They're not brand new. You don't get anything new. You were supposed to get a newly converted bathroom. You don't. You wound up with bath fitters being placed over mold in your existing bathrooms. When they say they will remove pipes, in tiny, tiny lettering, it says, we will remove some pipes if deemed necessary, which is the reason why Wise Towers had 3 steam pipe explosions because they never removed the old risers out and ran new ones. So people were sitting in their living rooms when the walls started rumbling and exploding and hot water came out and burned people. But you didn't see it on the news, did you? Raise your hand if you did. Nope, that didn't happen. It got covered up real quickly. When Wise Towers had 3 compact fires, it did not make the news until unfortunately I made a comment when Stephen Brown was here that the Community Board Housing Committee was not working with us or watching what was happening at Wise Towers. And nobody did their homework when the buildings kept catching on fire. They have brand new elevators that break so much. They now know all the first, last names, how many kids of every firefighter on 100th Street because they've come to rescue the residents out of there so much. This is not just a single issue. This has been happening since the RAD conversion started. I have gone since 2017 and 15 to every development almost in each borough to see what's going on. And the pretty pictures they are painting are false. When they come in, if your building does not have a recognized tenant association, then NYCHA makes all the decisions for your building. They will tell you they're gonna work with the tenants, they're gonna make a committee, you guys get to choose what paint colors you want, this, that, and the third. It never happens if you don't have an active TA in place. They do not do it. What NYCHA says and what NYCHA does are 2 entirely different things. Okay, they called all of us in October. And we knew sooner or later they were gonna call us because in 2015, NYCHA came up to our developments and gave us this whole big spiel and slideshow of how great the PAC program was. And we threw such a fit that they removed us from it and put Wise Towers in it because they were considered an underfunded unit that was not getting any funding from either the federal government or the state. So any development that was getting no funding got put into this in 2019. That's how they wound up in what was called the Manhattan B bundle. We were told that there would be a circle back because when de Blasio first came up with this lovely word of PACT, which stands for Permanent Affordability Commitment Togetherness, it is just it's an inconsistent name that has no value to it. We are known as the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program. That's what the federal government identifies us as, not PACT. That's just de Blasio's drama. But because he had already identified 62,000 units that would go into it, the Upper West Side was a part of the original 62,000 units that were identified back in 2017. So when we got pulled out of it, we knew that eventually, and here we are now, 10 years later, with the circle back, where we got the phone calls telling us, guess what? We're coming back. You're being put in this, and no, you don't get to vote. Everyone seems to think tenants get to vote. Tenants only get to vote if your development is being considered for the Preservation Trust, which is another Section 8 program that works more like the Construction Authority does, where NYCHA stays in place as your property management. You do not get a private management company. NYCHA still stays the property management. NYCHA employees are still permitted to work at your development, but there is a loan that gets to be taken out. It's more like a mortgage against your building, and it gets converted into the Section 8 program yet again. NYCHA's goal is to put every single development they have into the Section 8 conversion program, with the exception of the Mayor's Comprehensive Modernization Plan. It's called CompMod. That's St. Nicholas Houses, Toted Hill in Staten Island, There's a senior building in the Bronx and one in Brooklyn. It's like they grab one from each borough to put into the comp mod program. Those will be the only developments that will stay section 9. Because NYCHA's goal is to not have to deal with the day-to-day management of these buildings. They just want to own the land and collect the rent off the land. They're never gonna give that up. That's where the money's coming from. Now, as far as these surveys, when they first identified us as being put into this program and all us presidents got the phone call in October telling us, you're now being bundled into this program, I told them, you don't get to call me and tell me anything. Whatever you want to say to me, you put it in writing, because I trust nothing that comes out of NYCHA's mouth. Put it in writing. I was told by Rachel Renders, who's part of the PAC team that Polly showed you, who's brand new, I'm not. And she said, well, Ms. Tibbs, as much as NYCHA would love to work with you, we don't have to. We're NYCHA, we own the property. This is the way they talk to us all the time. And their goal lately is to disband all these tenant associations because the HUD 964 regulations, which yes, as our Bible states, that NYCHA must acknowledge us and must work with us. But if there's no tenant association in place, then NYCHA makes all the rules on behalf of that building. So they have done their best to tie our hands and mute us so that we don't get to say anything. And unless you come from a powerful TA that knows how to handle NYCHA, NYCHA manipulates you. And they make all the decisions for you. The survey was supposed to be to give to tenants to say, what would you like improved in your apartment? And it throws people off course, all right? Because a lot of tenants just go, well, I'd like a new paint job. Oh yeah, I'd like a new refrigerator. They're not thinking about the pipes behind the wall exploding. They're not thinking about the asbestos under their tiles. They're not thinking about the ceilings that are gonna cave in. I live in a building that is over 130 years old. If any of you have been watching the news about them demolishing Chelsea Elliott houses and Fulton, their buildings are only 60 years old. What do you think they're gonna do when they get up here to me? If you guys vote to remove the landmark status off that church, NYCHA's in the background waiting so that they can come swoop in and say, oh, wait now, the brownstones have landmark status, but they're too old for us to rehab. We want to tear them down. They will come for us with a vengeance. They are watching what this board does to that church. So just beware, you're not just making decisions for that church, you're making decisions for any landmark status building in this neighborhood. NYCHA is coming for us. Full force. This is what they do.
Well, thank you.
Okay? As far as the surveys, they did those surveys at Fulton and Chelsea. And people thought they were just doing a survey saying, oh, we want paint, we want this, we want that. And what did NYCHA do? NYCHA said, well, out of the surveys, the majority of the tenants want a brand new building. Because they asked them, would you like a washer and dryer in your kitchen? Would you like a doorman? Would you like a play area for your kids in the building? And they had no clue what they were saying yes to. But what they found out later that they're all in court for now is that what they said yes to was demoing their buildings. They didn't realize that at the time. And now they're in the fight of their life. Okay, this is what they do. And then they give you this suggestion, oh, do the survey, and if we choose you, you can get a gift card for $50 or $75 or $100. So tenants see this dollar sign and they're like, I'm filling out that survey because I want that money. This is all a bait and switch that NYCHA does to us all the time. Because they think we don't know how to read. In fact, with PRC management, who now in the news has the biggest number of violations. Vice Towers has the most violations under the PAC program than any other building. PRC has now turned around and changed their name because they've gotten too many violations under PRC, which stands for PAC Renaissance Community. They are now called People Recovery something. They keep changing the names because they've got too many violations against them. It's the same players with different names. Why? Because we see them all the time coming up here.
There was coverage of that.
Yes, there
in-
was.
In the local paper.
It took them long enough to do it. We've been screaming about this for
But they
years.
suggested that it was a new management company. You're
It's
saying
a newly
the-
named management
Only
company with the
the
same
The name
players.
is changed, but
Wow.
They
the players,
rebranded their name.
it's the same players, baby.
Yes.
Changing the
So
name.
what
alias?
Hold on, one at a time.
So what you're describing is a nightmare.
Absolutely.
What do you suggest that you and other town groups can do to prevent this from just barreling forward?
Get it
But what we
corrected.
have to do, and what we have asked CB7 to do, is please help us go over our leases correctly. Make sure we don't get the shit job. When Wise Towers got their leases, what they found out is that PRC came in and changed the doors, for an example. Gave everybody key fobs and changed the doors to hotel doors. Now, I don't know about you, but at night your door is heavy as hell. It may be a little too heavy, but it's secure. And we get to put our second or our third lock on it. With PRC, when they put the hotel doors on, it came with a stipulation. If you drill a hole in these doors and you put a second lock in, guess what? You're in violation of your lease and we will evict you. That's what they said. You have tenants who have kids with autism that elope all the time. So they have special gadgets on their door. They have special door locks on their door to keep their kids from running out. As soon as you put one of those on, you're in violation of your lease. We're evicting you. This is how they get you out. We had a family day this summer. All right? We had tenants that volunteered to help us at the end of the day, fold up chairs and tables. We were waiting for the truck to come to pick up the tables and chairs. So tenants, there were two brothers that stood out there to help us load all this stuff up on the truck. Lo and behold to us, 2 weeks later, when their rent comes, they've got a $300 summons attached to their rent because they were loitering outside the building for too long. A building that they pay rent in, they got a $300, but yes, it got removed. Dale Brewer got it removed, thank God. But not every area or every community knows who to go to. And like I said, if you're in a development with no TA, you're gonna get no help. And you're gonna wind up paying it because they intimidate you to the point that you're like, I gotta find a way to pay this $300 so I don't get evicted out of my apartment. This is the nonsense that they do.
All right, so at this point, Cynthia, I'm gonna,
Ernesto.
ask that Ernesto have an
I'm
opportunity
gonna
to
follow
speak.
that.
You told
Well,
me
you
so.
all wise towers, so.
Just say amen.
I love it. You know, everything
Yeah.
you're saying is the truth, but
Mhm.
this is for the people that are not living this way, right? Because in my opinion, as the leader of my development, I feel as though they do these things because they want to circumvent the rules to eventually get tenants to get so frustrated that they'll just move out. It has happened in my development. People have knocked on my door. It was good while it lasted. We have to go. My thing is, you can't give a fine to a tenant for standing in front of his building where they can't do it. I mean, come on. Right? You can't look at people and put them in a box. I don't care what development you're in, where you live. good tenants, bad tenants. That's just the way it is. I don't care where you live. Right? These folks, they don't stick to anything that they promise you. You're in your apartment and they come in with a gang of people and they they start demoing the apartment while you're sitting there. They say, oh yeah, we're gonna put you in another apartment. Where? I've only heard of it in my development alone. I think I've heard of 3 cases where they actually put someone in another apartment because they wanted you to box all your belongings and put them in said empty apartments. So if you're putting all these in different apartments, you got all these boxes of these apartments, and this for this apartment, that apartment, and one apartment, you come back to check on your stuff, boxes are broken into, stuff is missing, right? But she alluded to, oh, I want a paint job. Okay, we'll come in and we'll give you a paint job. They don't even prime the walls. A lot of the time, they don't even sand the walls down. So they paint the walls, and a week later, the old paint is coming through the new paint. You know, or as I've said until I'm blue in the face, hard for me to get blue in the face, but I'll say this, nothing. And I'm telling you, it's a very, very small percentage of things that they promise these tenants, and they don't do it. They don't do it. All the elders in my development are scared to death. Scared to death. A lot of tenants, elderly tenants, don't have computers by their choice. They don't want a computer. Okay, so they don't understand. But no one's gonna come to them to explain to them. 5 or 10 minute conversation. Right? This is how it is. This is how it's gonna be. You know, there's a lot of mental illness in my development. They do nothing. They come to me, complain, oh, you're people. Well, yes, they're my people. They are my people, you're right. So what do you want me to do? Because they want me to knock on doors for them? No. You don't supply the help. You know, you don't do anything for these tenants but just raise rent. Me personally, just from December to right now, I've recertified twice. Prior to December, I certified 4 times. It's a joke. You leave the office, oh, everything is all right. 2 weeks later, you get a letter. Or you'll get a letter saying, oh, you owe 3,000, or you owe 4,000. Now the tenant is in oh, forget it, they're bugging out.
Heart attack,
All
actually.
right, that's the, we don't owe that money. I go to the office. What's going on? Oh, it was a mistake. Oh, it was a mistake. You're gonna refund these folks their money back? They refund it the way they want to. They'll send it in little increments. Or they'll say, oh, we could put it to your next rent. Right? This is what they do. This is what let me tell you something. Of course, we want our developments to be beautiful. But we also have to understand that this is the Upper West Side.
Richard neighborhood, we live in
Okay.
Richard neighborhood.
Rich neighborhood. Listen, I grew up here. As she had. I've been here all my life. There's nobody that could tell me nothing about the Upper West Side. Nobody. Unless it's my mother or my grandmother or someone like that, because we've been here all our lives, right? But it's a different narrative. Okay, you want to change it. Housing doesn't really want to mess with us, so they threw us to these developers. Right? So how can you sit in your apartment with your family and walls are blowing up? How we haven't had someone get killed? Or maybe, can you imagine? You're sitting in your apartment, nice and easy, and boom, Like, we've literally heard booms like a bomb going off in other apartments. Right? And then you go, oh, well what? You sat on your butts for a year and a half, right before COVID.
Try to blame it on the two.
Right before COVID. You could have sent experts in there to check the piping, the plumbing, right? With the bath fitters. They have a presentation, they say to us, oh no, we're gonna demo the whole bathroom. You're gonna have brand new bathroom, brand new kitchen, and some genius said, wait a minute, we don't gotta do that, we could do bath fitters. It might have mold. Oh, we'll worry about that later. So you got all this brown and black stuff on the edges of the bathrooms. And the tenants have to clean it up themselves because you don't know when they're gonna show up. It's not fair. You understand? If we have to put up with the narrative, okay, they're gonna beautify it, you know, they're gonna make things better. But you go into our bathrooms, it looks like a $2 bathroom. Okay, they did no measuring. My overweight tenants, right? They have to slide and force themselves to use the bathroom because the cabinets next to the toilets, they weren't measured. So hey, just put it in there. You know how embarrassing that is for a person that's obese? I used to be obese, couldn't tell now. But let me tell you something, it's very embarrassing for a tenant who's been in an apartment all these years and now all of a sudden, they're not even comfortable using their own damn bathroom. You understand? You know, this is so unfair nature. I don't even know really in good conscience if they even understand what they're doing to the folks of the city. Right? It's called public housing for a reason. Now, if it's not gonna be public housing and it's gonna be private, as they love to throw that word at you, it's private. Okay, where's the security? You only have 4 buildings. We don't have someone watching our lobbies to protect the tenants. Right? We still have homeless people, crackheads busting into the buildings, breaking the entrance door every other week. My door's broken right now. Right? Or they'll give you $2 shades. They put shades in your apartment. They tell you, oh, you got to get rid of all this stuff. They're going to beautify it. They're going to make everything brand new. And the minute you go to clean the shade cracks and breaks. Rosalba was with me. We just got them to agree to pay for the shades. They didn't even want to pay for the shades. No, you have to pay for them. Wait a minute. You made the tenants get rid of their stuff. You put in these shades and they're literally $2 shades. Like literally. Literally. This whole system, in my opinion, is a conspiracy. I say, in my opinion, I've been here all my life. I've been through this process from the beginning, and to me, it's a ploy to get people out of these buildings. I believe that every time we have a meeting and we walk out of a meeting feeling like we got something done. Like maybe someone's gonna listen to us. But I think when the meeting is over, they say, boy, I'm glad that's over. Because they don't get back to us. They do nothing they say in that meeting like we're sitting here right here. And they'll look at us and they'll say, this is what we're gonna do for you.
Well, Ernesto, I want to thank you for sharing a real experience. I'm so glad that you came to the committee meeting. And that's one of the reasons why we had the meet and greet. Okay, so we can have a name and a face, so people could hear actual stories and residents who are actually living through this each and every day. And so we as a housing and land use committee want to work to help. Okay, so you've given us a lot of feedback on areas of concern that we need to have a discussion, figure out how we can address these issues, okay? And so that is why I wanted you here today, along with Cynthia as well, and the rest of the leaders. Carmen, I'm glad you showed up as well. But we're not gonna solve everything overnight, as we know, okay? It's a lot of information to digest, okay? But I really wanted the committee to figure out, like, how can we as a committee, all right, address, we have landmark issues, we're hearing heat issues, we're hearing security, there's a lot, okay? Yes. Go ahead.
Just,
Mhm.
you brought up something. How much warehousing do you think there is?
How much what?
Warehousing. That,
Oh,
They-
vacant, oh, a lot of vacant apartments. You see, they said, we're gonna downsize. We're gonna upgrade families that are overcrowded.
this is the big issue.
We're gonna
Mhm.
bring people, they're gonna switch it around. 6 years ago, we still have, if you look at every building in my development, you're gonna see at least 3 or 4 apartments that are being held so that they can rent them at market value. Every other month, I walk around and I see new tenants in my buildings. I say, oh, okay, welcome to the building, but when did they move in? Middle of the night? It's crazy over here. It's really something that you look at, unless you live it, you can't understand it.
Is there any way that one can find out how many market rate apartments there are as opposed to ones that are under?
Heck of a question. The thing is, can we get transparency? Can we get an honest answer as to why they're
Yeah.
holding those? That's a great
Wait
question.
till she finishes.
Great question.
Okay, we have a question here.
Okay,
I'm sorry, did you
okay.
finish, Louisa?
Mhm.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Louisa, these were the vacancies that NYCHA told us as of December 25.
There's more than that.
There's more than
Those
that.
are lies.
That number is way
Those are
too
lies.
small.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing here?
Please.
Because, my name is Carmen Quinones and I'm the president of Douglas Houses, right? I saw this coming for a long time.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I applied for a 501c3 for Resident Management Corporation. Douglas is now a resident corporation. That's why they're not hitting me. And I did that with my social security money. That's how serious I was. Okay? But we have to realize one thing. New York City Housing Authority, okay? Number one, you don't have the same players anymore. It goes over and over and over and over. You never know who's in charge of what. And they make the rules as they go.
That's right.
And not all, I want you to really look into this pack rag and whatever. But you need to also look into resident management to save other developments from this. Resident management is in our 964 regs. They have to train you. I have now taken over management. Maintenance. I've gotten all new roofs, all my scaffoldings are off. Why? Because I keep my finger on the pulse. If you don't have a strong leader, they will walk over you, just like they said. So it's not only just looking at what is going on, look at other remedies that you can put in place. Resident management is one of them. And we should all be working on that. Okay, because it gives, it's ownership, it's equity. That's what we want. That's what we need. Because that can lead into ownership. And it's not gonna happen overnight.
No.
I'm in my 5th year. And I'm doing the maintenance. Then from maintenance, I can go to something else and then something else. But you gotta perfect the first line, which is maintenance.
Well, Carmen, thank you, and you're giving us a
Okay.
lot of feedback, and for the sake of time, I'm gonna take a question from Shelley.
My question is a statement.
Okay, statement, okay.
We've heard from our neighbors. And your heart's gotta come out of your chest.
Mhm.
Your ears have to wanna close because it's too much and your eyes have to wanna cry. We can't do anything less but have a task force, ongoing task force from this committee to work together with the tenant leaders. Because we're not gonna, we can't wait till we have a meeting and another meeting. We have to be a part of it. And if we are, we may be able to help. If not, it'll just be, we mean well,
Mhm.
and that's not enough. What we're hearing, that's not enough.
It's not enough.
It has to be hands-on. Or
Got
it's
to be
not gonna go
hands-on, and
anywhere.
accountability is
And-
this big of a
and-
word.
And along with that, we're in a position to go to our elected officials and go to city agencies and say, we don't like what's going on and whatever we have to do to bring it to the public and to get something done about it.
Mhm.
Because if not, we can be a community board that passed resolution, we don't like this, but that's not gonna do it in this situation.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that was the purpose of us having this meeting today and focusing on this topic because there's so much information to digest. Okay, but a lot of us here on the committee have some professional and background knowledge that can be used to help us help the public housing community. Yes.
Sorry, I wanna explore
Mhm.
some of the concerns about what NICET is doing and how these programs work.
Mhm.
It would be helpful to understand kind of concretely what the tenant groups want to happen.
Mhm.
Both in terms of how it would work and how it would be funded, just so we know what the ask is,
Right.
not what we put, what's supported.
Well, some of the asks were done during the meet and greet prior to the housing committee meeting, so we're gonna share that information. And as I said, not all of the leaders are here, so what we're hoping is that we can get some feedback from other leaders who weren't here today. All right, but we did hear some major asks to begin with. We can't solve every problem, overnight. So we're gonna select priority issues that are concerning them right now. And then we'll work as a committee from there. That's our recommendation. We do want to have a working group, and maybe some of us can take on the issue regarding land, those kind of issues that were brought up with the brownstones as far as, the fear of the brownstones being demolished or taken over by a developer who's not interested in, preserving it. That's a major issue right there. Then we have issues who are residents who are challenged, not only language wise, but somebody should be an ombudsman in advocating for families, you understand, who have children or even adults, elderly, it doesn't matter, who are facing physical challenges that are incapable of mobility issues. We don't know that. We have to really kind of dive deep into that and find out what is the population at that specific site, and then we know how to address that. So we did get a lot of feedback during the meet and greet. Okay, yes,
Let me ask one other question.
yes.
Listening to this, I get the feeling that the people who are directly involved feel that the PAC program is unworkable
It is.
and that it is
Yes.
a danger to the residents, to both their physical and mental health. Okay,
It's designed to be.
It's designed. I'm a conspiracy person, right? I believe there's always something to it.
so do I
Unfortunately.
get the feeling that there are two things here? One is, what can we do to help improve the buildings now and heat, hot water, all that kind of stuff? But do you think that this is a runaway train, or do you feel that it can be stopped and or altered in
Lord, I
some
hope
way?
you're wrong. I hope it's not a runaway train. For sure, right? We want to be
You
able
can't
to
stop.
slow it down at least a little bit and let us catch our breath, right? Because the way they're moving, see, our bundle, right? We had 4 buildings. We were easy. But we heard the rumors 10 years ago. Carmen's right.
You cannot stop it.
First it was Chase Bank was gonna buy us. Then it was Trinity,
Columbia,
right?
Columbia, Trinity,
Everybody, all these rumors coming up, and then we almost started taking it for granted a bit. Right, because the years went by. And rumors, and we're like, okay. Then 2019,
That's what I did as a manager.
2019 it started. Oh, you're in the bundle. Huh? Oh yeah, we're coming. Huh? And if it wasn't for Rosalba and Gail to make sense of the whole thing, we'd been totally lost. They just came and ran over us.
All right, I'm
But
gonna
that's what I-
interject right now because of the time.
No, you're right.
We have a few more questions and then because we can't keep opening up the floor to
Just can't
questions,
believe it.
we have other issues that we have to address tonight. Yes,
I just wanna.
after Mona Lisa, that's it. Yeah.
With, a solution that,
Right.
what is her name?
Shelley.
Shelley, mentioned about, we could have the community board, but we have to have a force, like you said.
Mhm,
We
just
gotta
ask, yeah.
create that, so then we could attack these departments in the city
Mm-hmm,
and, really work at avoiding for them to come and step in, because yes, things can be waived,
Yeah.
like you mentioned before.
mm-hmm.
So I'm just so in agreement with that part, and I think that from there, we can take it with all that's been received today and make that happen.
And that's the plan. So as a committee right now, we're having a discussion on what we can do to work together, to put a working group together, because we've gotten a lot of feedback tonight. Okay, and we could be here all night sharing, but we're not able to. We have to move on to other issues. So I want to thank you, Ernesto, and
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
yes.
Because I just hope that the future, right, that things change,
Mm-hmm,
that you guys can make a dent
right,
for the
exactly.
new bundles that are
Mhm.
coming,
Yeah,
right? Because this is not gonna stop.
no, we get that, and we get that. We get that. You
But
made
at
it very
least let's
clear.
Be fair
Mm-hmm,
and treat people right,
yes.
right, so that
At
they
least with
can
dignity.
live like regular
At
folks.
least with dignity.
Right.
That's what we want.
So what we're gonna do, okay, is take what you said. We're gonna follow up. You have names and faces. I don't know if anybody, everybody in the committee didn't get a chance to introduce themselves, but Louisa Craddock is the co-chair along with Seema Reddy. And would you just state your name and,
My name is Minna Elias. I used to be Congressman Maloney's mayor chief of staff, so I have worked with.
And you're here, so I respect everybody that's here, that they took their time and came here
exactly.
and listened, right,
Mhm.
and took notes and see.
Yeah.
Because I'm only here for the future.
Mhm.
We're already going through.
And so now we would like for Shelley, yeah.
Kelly Klein, this is year 41 on the community board. It's crazy. I'm
Mhm.
also involved with developing affordable housing through West Side Federation for 47 years, including NYCHA
Mhm.
connections in section 9 and section 8, particularly in the Bronx, because it's like to help in any way I can.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. The bit, yeah.
Oh, I'm Tabitha Kanene. I'm of the Housing Lines Committee.
Can't hear you, brother.
I'm Tabitha Kanene, a member of the Housing Lines Committee.
Okay.
John Shockett, I'm also a co-chair of this committee.
Sarah Lee Evans.
Hi, Isaac Aberstein on the committee. I also co-chair the Health and Human Services Committee, and I run a homeless service agency, one working from Broadway.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Beverly Donahue, former chair of the board.
Miriam Alexandra, apologies that I was late, but I really appreciate what you shared today.
And last but not least, I'm
Hold on.
Polly Swain.
Well, there's still some of us here.
Oh, we have some members up here online. Let's introduce them.
Yeah,
There
go
are
ahead,
those of
Ira.
us who are here but not here.
Good, Ira, why don't you start?
Okay, I'm Ira Mitchnick. I'm a member of the committee. I've probably got 40, I'm an architect. I probably have 40 years of experience on housing, affordable, new construction, rehab, landmarks. The technical expertise that I have is considerable. I want to make one comment is the one thing I didn't hear anybody do, which we always do, is establish a baseline of systems that need work. We don't, and that's a baseline. I don't see where baseline data was ever collected on any of these buildings. So it was, I don't know if it was or wasn't.
It's a great recommendation,
Good
Ira.
question.
Yeah.
Who else? Miranda?
Richard, sorry.
Oh,
I'm Richard Ash. I'm a longtime member of this committee. Many years ago, I was a tenants representative in landlord tenant court in Brooklyn. so I know the game, or I knew how it
Mhm.
was then. It seems to me that, beyond developing a fact sheet, more than a fact sheet, but a booklet of all of the things that are wrong, with all of the horror stories, collecting, interviewing every tenant who feels like they have a horror story and collecting it in the book, and then going public with it, would be my suggestion. The board doesn't usually do that, but I think, you know, if you have a government agency that doesn't care about you and doesn't care probably about community boards, the only way to light a fire is to go to the press.
Okay.
Hi, Miranda Goodwin-Rabb. I actually really love Richard's idea. I think that's awesome. I thank all the tenant association presidents who have come tonight and shared what's going on with us, because I think I've been on the board about 4 or 5 years. When Cynthia mentioned the tower, the fire at Wise Tower, that was one of the first things I remember happening on the board, and really being upset that our board probably doesn't do enough on NYCHA, and wanting us, there's so many NYCHA properties in the district that I hope we can have a better relationship going forward. So I really appreciate everyone who's taken the time tonight.
Here.
Okay. Ethel,
Yeah, I
go ahead.
just, years ago, being on the board a long time, I remember that, several years ago, there was an effort which failed, unfortunately and quickly, to really focus on the needs of the NYCHA housing. And I remember that there were times when Shelley and I worked, and there were so many others, people here who have done it, but it never succeeded either politically, though Lord knows the people living in the buildings worked so well and were so articulate as they have been tonight. I really think that we should try to make this a focus, at least to begin to take, I won't say baby steps because we need giant steps, but to really make this a priority. The last thing is, we are in a so-called affluent area of the city, but there are just hundreds, as you just know, that in this area of NYCHA housing. And we've heard about exploitation, and we've heard about survival. Now I realize more than ever that we've got to do our best with the people living there, and maybe the new mayor as well, to focus on these needs, people, its history, and its future.
I think that's it.
Very well put.
Adam,
Hi, my name is Adam.
That's it.
okay.
All right, yeah.
Should we move to our last agenda item, which is goal setting? It's maybe an appropriate segue, goal
You're
setting
kidding.
for the next 6 months?
Yeah.
Anyone want to toss out ideas?
Okay.
Please.
Well, focus on NYCHA and the problems that have been presented tonight, not only the different categories of problems, but the political problems that are causing things not to improve and maybe things to get worse.
I concur with Shelley, and I would also recommend that we focus on so-called zombie apartments that are in disrepair and that are in need of renovation to get back up to code, but are unable to for various reasons. Be great to get those back online.
And is that the same as warehouse, or it's a slightly different category than
So-
just where?
Slightly different category.
Yeah.
It's basically apartments that need repair.
But they're rent stabilized or rent controlled, and the amount that would need to be invested to get them back up to code is not something that a
prohibitive
landlord
right
could
now.
recoup.
These are not these are not necessarily.
Warehousing is typically taken to mean an apartment that is rentable. Like it's conditioned to rent and for whatever.
There's an
reason, it's
active
not,
lawsuit
where it's
right
not.
Warehousing is a very broad topic, and apartments are warehoused for many different reasons.
Yeah.
So for example, when you see a building coming down, they may have accumulated those apartments for many years and then built another building on the site. That's different than the apartments that need the zombie apartments that are discussed here, where the intent is to get those back on the market if the finances work. And then sometimes, you know, I mean, there are apartments that look like they're warehoused, they're not really warehoused, they're in estates, they're at the public administrator. You see those in around this neighborhood a lot too, where you have older people with no family. And you see those quite frequently too, if you get into the buildings. So it's a bigger topic.
Do you mean apartments that are sealed by the NYPD or the public?
Correct, you
administrator?
got it. They're sealed by, yeah, and then those can take a year and a half to open under some conditions. I think, which while I'm mentioning it, we still have the library site, which the proposal should be coming in soon.
Yeah. What would be the goal there? Just to keep an eye on that process?
Well, no.
Push HPD, pushing HPD and the mayor and.
Yeah.
To the extent that the responses are public, we can weigh in on which ones we like, which ones we don't like.
They may never let you see them until they designated one or they're down to two or three. We don't even know. They should tell us at least who submitted.
Just the general outline of what they're suggesting. I mean, they
Yeah,
came to us.
Richard, in general, they won't do it until they decide, because if it causes too much chance for collusion if the people can see what the other people submitted. So it has to be a blind process until it's been decided.
Well, there must be a time before it's set in stone that we have some access to, I would think.
Yeah.
See, like, can I suggest a way to articulate kind of series of things? People just said that identifying existing units of housing that are offline and figuring out ways to get them online and occupied.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the last several things boiled down.
Anyway, to switch back to the other thing, Adam, sometimes they do let a little bit of light into the RFP process. Not a lot, but certainly it comes out because they start playing off each of the submissions against each other. And so that light comes through whether it's intentional or not. It does happen.
Is that what you were going to say, Beverly? Sorry.
Yet another, first of all, I think all of these ideas are really very important to us and well worth our time going forward. But I also wanted to think about the proposals that were approved in the election, the propositions that were voted on. Under one of them, it is very likely that our district will be held to quotas for increasing new housing and affordable housing development, and how to actually move that needle, I think, in light of those mandates, is something we have to spend time on too.
So you're saying, how would we address that if given a mandate?
That's a very,
When
yes.
given a mandate,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah, those come on in
Hold on.
October, I believe, right?
Mary.
Yeah, I was gonna speak on environmental health. I think our community leaders spoke a lot about issues in the renovation process, but also existing issues of asbestos, lead poisoning. Obviously, the RAD PAC program, this has been identified as an issue, and I think we should really focus on that, especially if people are living through the renovations. But also, I think, you know, globally in our community, we obviously have generally older units, and that's a concern. So focusing on that through the RAD PAC process, and also just in general, there's other things that should be brought in. It's clearly an issue.
Okay, I would like to suggest that we form a task force, not a subcommittee. And a task force would be open to everybody on the community board who would be interested in the subject. And that we set up a series of goals and also meetings with the public housing community. And on a regular basis, so that you could tell us your concerns and what you feel that we could do, and we could tell you what we think we can do. Which you realize is somewhat limited, but we really, I think we'd like to help a lot.
Well, we appreciate it. All we want is transparency, right? To know what's going on and not get blindsided every time you turn around. It's something else. It's tough.
I learned a lot tonight.
Tough.
Yeah.
It's tough, and we don't want to come here, look like we're crying about stuff, right? We're talking about fair
This is very
and
practical.
honest. You know, we got to get this right. Because we're fighting an entity that seems like they just do what they want to do. And it's a tough thing, very tough.
John,
Yeah, Nina, John.
oh, didn't see.
I think we should be hearing from the Mamdani administration because there should be a change of attitude, players, whatever, with the new administration. And I think we need to understand whether or not they are cognizant of the issues that we've heard about now and what they're planning to do. Because, you know, this needs to be set up in a way that is not negative for tenants. And they're the ones who are in the best place to do that.
Totally agreed and hopeful. I think we still need a task force because.
That's not a contradiction.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and so just along the lines of a nature-related task force, I think it's a good idea. I think it makes sense, you know, it probably shouldn't be limited to this committee if we're gonna propose this to the full board to create it. I do think that in line with the direction that we've been given to come up with 4 to 5 specific goals, that should make sure that the task force's charter is focused, you know, certainly on identifying problems, but on identifying specific concrete solutions to those problems rather than just raising issues. There should be, this is a problem and this is the specific doable thing that we think should be done about it.
Yes.
You will find a lot of night shift staff are responsible for a lot of things that needs to be looked into. Believe me, it starts right there. It starts right there. NYCHA, a lot of them have to go. The new staff now is getting paid top dollar for doing nothing.
Is this something for the Mamdani's new rental ripoff hearings that are coming up with the fee?
I don't know about that, but it was happening way before he became
I'm not
mayor.
blaming Mamdani. He's starting hearings for tenants to complain about issues of landlords. If NYCHA is such a bad landlord, we should make sure that these stories are told there.
Of course,
Yes.
of
There's
course.
no if.
I've already written him a letter. I want to sit down, honey. I'll be playing.
hands up.
No, I mean, that's. I agree with you.
It's a very good point.
Because with all due respect, right, if folks don't live what we're living,
Yeah, that's why I want to move on.
right, it's gonna be hard for folks to understand unless they see it. Right, because the way right now, it looks like we're just whining about stuff, but we're absolutely not. This is something that's been going on for a very long time.
And you can get one NYCHA president to represent them all
That's right.
on a committee. You can't do that.
Gotta have more.
It's impossible. Nobody's development is alike. And to have one representative,
No,
one that may be in your pocket,
no,
no, to speak for everybody else,
no,
I don't think so.
no.
We don't trust that.
And you know, Polly, we've been seeing that for a long time.
Okay, we have 2 hands online. Adam, do you want to go first and then Miranda after
Oh,
that?
Adam's back.
Sure. Just going back to the priorities, I thought something that might be interesting to look at is environmental review. On the Upper West Side, there's lots of environmental review requirements for new development. And we could take a look at which elements of the environmental review we think is good and helpful for new housing and which stuff is kind of unnecessary and just adds added expense. I'm especially thinking about stuff for when we're developing affordable housing to make sure that the environmental review focuses on the stuff that matters and doesn't focus on stuff that, you know, doesn't matter.
Yep. Miranda?
Yeah, I wanted to just go back to the task force. I think I've made this clear before, but I really think that it shouldn't be separate from the housing community. I just feel like this board has done not a great job of addressing NYCHA needs, and I think that separating it into a separate other thing, and I understand that there's the argument that that means other members from the committee can join. That's great. Other members, if they're really interested, can come to our committee meetings also and discuss issues of NYCHA. Our agendas are published in advance. I personally think that pushing it to a separate thing is just not giving these issues the respect that it needs and kind of diminishes it as a priority, which I think we're all in agreement that it should be.
Maybe we can explore subcommittee versus task force and the different options for how to handle it.
The one thing is that it does sound like a much more intensive series of meetings.
Yeah.
This meeting happens once a month.
Yeah.
And we would need
Much more activity.
more
needed.
activity
Yeah.
than perhaps this particular committee is able to commit
Prepared for,
to
yeah.
in terms of time.
It sounds like there's consensus that there should be a group to do this. The question is just
Yeah.
how to formally structure that. and
Yes.
I got through all that.
To be there.
Oh, I was just gonna follow up on what Adam said with environmental review. There's been some secret reforms that
Saw
have been
that.
proposed by the governor in his state address. And then the mayor is in support of those reforms. So I think, you know, if we want to, we can review those and decide to try and support them or not support them.
Well, I have an idea. I think that each of us can take the opportunity to reach out to the resident leaders, because they do have meetings, okay, and then exchange contact. So that this way they have someone to reach out to, prior to these type of meetings and start developing relationships and dialogues. Because as I said earlier, a lot of us have professional experience in some areas, okay, and we could use that knowledge to capitalize on how we can help. I like the idea that Richard brought up, and also Ira. I think that we should utilize that information piece that Ira was talking about, that we need to build up some data on the buildings.
Baselines,
Yeah,
systems,
and then also what Richard aligned to, okay? Because we need to publicize. Yes, Richard, just give me a second. I want to finish my.
Sure,
Okay.
I'm in no hurry.
Yeah. Because that's key, you understand? Because we've gotten a lot of feedback tonight. And so we need to put something together so that we all can, I don't know, if we want to use a Google Workspace or something, but we all can exchange information and have like a hub somewhere where we can submit, information. Yeah,
Sorry, we had.
somebody.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
please.
one thing I wanted to propose is possibly, a goal or something for us to look into is, we all want to keep housing costs down and other costs in the city down, but one thing that, we don't always focus on is where the city is creating those costs and driving things up. So, this month alone, we're gonna have Con Ed voting on a rate increase, about 13% over 3 years, like that hits landlords in the pocket, hits tenants in the pockets too, but the property tax notice of property valuation just went out, we just raised the property tax bills. There's a bunch of new city council laws that are coming through that are raising costs. And so I'm not pointing at any one of them individually, but one thing that we might want to do is inventory which city programs and policies and new things that are coming down the pipe in our district are actually the drivers of those rent increases, because whether it's the rent guidelines board or whoever looks at it and says, costs went up, well, who drove up those costs? And can we go back to the administration or any of these agencies and suggest, these are areas where we think maybe some of these costs could have been in better control or could have been avoided. For example, like the mayor this year might not have to charge the water board a rent for the pipes in the streets, which they then pass on to the rest of us. These are just a couple of things.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is, as a group of experts in here, we're gonna come up with a list of probably 100 other areas where the city could help us reduce housing costs. But at the end of the day, those are the number one drivers of costs, and we need to help bring housing costs down.
I'd also like for us to, this is very broad, but to focus on obviously the intersection between homelessness and housing. There are a number of programs that the city has in place, vis-a-vis homelessness prevention. There's SREE, there's DREE. Currently, those only apply to rent stabilized units. And in my line of work, at least, I see lots of seniors that come to be evicted, because they were in non-rent stabilized apartments and their rates were hiked up. There are also a lot of flaws with the home-based program, which is supposed to pay back rent for people if they have a way to pay their rent moving forward. And that's deeply flawed as well. And in our district, we've seen a lot of increased homelessness, or especially since COVID. So I think these are worthy of special attention. I know not everyone feels that passing resolutions is that significant, but I think to what extent we could do that and highlight to various city agencies that these things play a contributing role to people getting evicted.
Right.
I think that would be helpful at the very least.
Very helpful.
Do you see that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you see that as something we would do jointly
Yeah.
with HHS? I think that would be great. Yep.
Dima?
I would like to,
Oh, I'm so sorry, Richard, forgot about you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. On the issue of whether it should be a task force or a subcommittee, I
Yeah.
strongly believe that it should not be a task force, and my reason for that is this. This committee is already huge. I think there are, what, 16 members or something? And from what I hear tonight and what I know of the members, most of us are gonna want to be on that committee. To the extent that other housing or land use people are on the committee, it reduces the spots available for people on our committee. So I would strongly recommend that our committee create a subcommittee to work on NYCHA housing and not open it up to other board members. If someone said anyone who wants to attend one of our meetings can, they're all open. But you know, I think we have an incredible amount of expertise in general on housing and land use on this committee. And I would hate to see somebody, not have their voice heard because it's drowned out by other board members who may have, interesting idea, who may be interested, but who don't have the expertise that many of us have.
I don't disagree that we should limit to the committee, but I want to call the task force because the task force does something.
Fine. That's fine. I think also, yeah, we also should be
call it a working
reaching out. I think we should be reaching out to some of the some of the professionals in this area, landlord, tenant lawyers, and people who have represented the NYCHA housing tenants in the past, and find out what they find out what they think is the lay of the land.
Okay, last comment.
okay, I don't know if this is Health and Human Services or housing or both. But the Housing First movement, which I think is very important. And we can certainly get people to talk about it. I know that the president is firmly against it.
Shocker.
But it is a very interesting program that seems to work in other cities.
Well, he's very busy fixing up his own house,
What did you say?
He's very busy building an addition on his house right now, so
We all get a good
he's
ballroom.
covered.
That's
what's holding us back.
We can all move to Houston.
So, I'm kind of trying to think through the different buckets that we have here and then maybe some stuff that could do with HHS. But it makes sense for we can kind of try to figure out a way to articulate this into like the 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Shoot it around by email,
Yes.
try to settle on this, get feedback and comments, and then have something to present to the full board next.
Yeah, just so you know, we were supposed to present this at our last full board meeting, but we are a little bit late, so we're trying for next.
We've been busy.
Yes, we've been a little busy. Yeah.
So one thing that the mayor signed on his first day was the lift executive order, land inventory fast track,
Oh, yes.
where land inventory fast track. So by July first, the city is going to identify a list of city-owned properties on which to build housing. So if we want to find out what's gonna be on that list, then we should do so by July first.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Levine did that several times over the years.
But it's, I mean, but it,
No,
Yeah.
it's good doing it, but the lists are out there.
Adam
I
just did
understand
that.
it's been done. It has been done, but this is a new mayor and they're going
No,
to
no, I'm not arguing with that.
probably use
Yeah.
this list to do something.
Speaking of, there's another commission also that Leila Borzog is heading. I think it's about maybe
Speed.
housing, like
Speed.
red tape. Oh,
Exactly, the
okay.
speeds for red tape, exactly.
okay.
Those are the first
We should
two.
look at that too, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
those are the first two executive orders he signed January first.
Yeah.
So if it's helpful,
There
I
will
can,
always be red tape.
I'm seeing like 5 buckets that people have talked about that can maybe be shaped into goals. Tell me if people disagree with how I'm characterizing this, but one is existing housing units that are not occupied and figuring out how to get people living in them. 2 is new housing, ways to expand the supply consistent with the charter amendments, identify city-owned properties, affordable housing, anything that doesn't presently exist. Environmental health related to old buildings, whether they're NYCHA or not NYCHA. The NYCHA group, TBD, but focused on concrete action related to dealing with all things NYCHA. And then homelessness together with HHS. Is that, different pieces can fit into different things, but does that kind of cover everything that people have said?
Well, the homelessness has more been the Human Services Committee historically.
Yeah, we can talk to them about how to, I mean, it's related to housing, but we can.
Right,
you know,
but
make-
they're really the lead on this, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely-
Unless it's actually building housing for homeless, in which case then it comes back to a joint committee.
Great. So we will circulate, we'll revise, circulate. You guys can comment. Great. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you all for coming so
Okay.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. Please feel free to take some photos.